The fate of Donetsk and Bakhmut will be decided by the side that breaks the defense line. With the first light of the morning, Ukrainian forces mobilized on the Andriivka front where they had been advancing for weeks. Ukrainian troops deployed ahead of the railway line and began a massive offensive to liberate the area completely. With the first fire of Ukrainian artillery, explosions began to occur one after another on both Ukrainian and Russian positions. Then Ukrainian tanks and armored vehicles began to advance in a sudden raid along the northern and southern line of Andriivka. 2 Ukrainian mechanized brigades and 2 motorized brigades entered the Russian positions on the northern and southern front of Andriivka. With the entry of 4 brigades into the Russian positions, the advance began from the center line, and the Russians were forced to retreat with heavy losses. In order to prevent further losses of Russian troops, Russian artillery fired about 300 rounds at Ukrainian troops, but the positions were captured in a short time. Ukrainian forces liberated another area of about 1 kilometer, but this was only the beginning of the war. The retreating Russian troops increased their military presence in the region with Russian brigades coming through Bakhmut, and a large number of Russian motorized units were shifted to the region. The situation was recognized by the Ukrainian forces and urgent reinforcements were called for. However, the Russian army organized a very sudden attack to prevent the Ukrainian forces from regrouping. Heavy fighting and explosions took place in the area for about an hour. Russian forces again went on the offensive to seize the lost defense line in Andriivka. There were a lot of mutual casualties in the area, but I can say that the Russians risked a lot of casualties to save the train line. Therefore, the same scenario happened again, and the Ukrainian forces had to retreat to the second line of defense under artillery fire. In about 3 hours, the territory changed hands twice. During this period, the Ukrainian army received the requested reinforcement of troops and military equipment. In addition, 2 specially trained units were sent to the region. With the deployment of the Kraken unit to the region, unmanned aerial vehicles started to actively operate in the region and collect images. The unmanned aerial vehicles managed to take many images from the region, albeit with difficulty. The Russians have deployed many electronic warfare systems against drones on the front line. After the images were taken, the operation officially started. Both sides completed their deployments, and the Ukrainian offensive was launched by the Ukrainian army. First, the Kraken unit used kamikaze drones to neutralize part of the Russian infantry in their positions. Simultaneously, Ukrainian artillery units pounded Russian trenches for hours. After one explosion after another, Ukrainian forces mobilized. I can say that armored vehicles came to the fore in this process. Armored vehicles attacking the Russian trenches created huge breaches in the Russian positions, and the Ukrainian infantry quickly regained control of the area. In addition, Ukrainian artillery units and HIMARS systems began to hit artillery units and electronic warfare systems behind Russian positions. The Ukrainian brigades made a mass advance and fully entrenched themselves in the defense line, which had changed hands 3 times. This time more troops and military equipment were sent to the area. Great precautions were taken against a possible Russian attack. Shortly afterwards, Ukrainian Defense Minister Malyar officially announced that the Ukrainian army was in full control of Andriivka. On the other hand, the southern front is as difficult as the eastern front. No major progress has been made for nearly 2 days. On the Robodyne line, Ukrainian forces are struggling to move beyond a few kilometers. The Russians have shifted the 76th Armored Vehicle Division from the Luhansk region to Zaporizhia after record losses. In addition, a large number of Russian troops were transferred from the eastern line to the southern line. This led to a stalemate on the Robodyne-Rubov line. The war officially entered a period of attrition, but the fate of the war could change with the announcement of shipments from the United States. The United States announces aid packages to Ukraine every Tuesday. Last week, the United States said that the new aid package would be announced on Tuesday, but still no announcement has been made. I think that the main reason for this is the blocked front line on the Ukrainian territory. I think that the reason why the United States has not announced the aid package is that it is going to send ATACMS missiles to Ukraine. If these long-range missiles are delivered to Ukraine, every point behind the Russian front line can be destroyed very precisely. You will see that the Russian defense lines will break down very quickly after this process. Because Ukrainian forces are using the encirclement strategy as a long-term plan. Many Russian logistics lines, ammunition depots, and command centers, including in Crimea, are being hit. These areas are currently being hit by drones and long-range artillery systems. Therefore, access to the Russian troops being hit is limited. However, these missiles will eliminate the range limit. We have clearly seen in Crimea what the Shadow Storm missiles sent by the UK can do. If the new missiles reach Ukrainian territory, it will be a nightmare for Russian defense lines. By targeting Russian supply lines and air defense systems, Ukraine has completely ended Russian air dominance. The Russians had already been unable to establish air dominance with their warplanes and helicopters, but with the destruction of the air defense systems, I can say that many regions were left defenseless. With British Shadow Storm missiles, the Ukrainian army has begun to clear Crimea of illegal Russian control. Ukraine used drones and missile strikes to hit the Russian S-400 air defense system, worth $1 billion, located on the territory of Crimea. The Russian S-400 air defense system in the Yevpatoria region of Crimea was reduced to ashes as a result of an attack by drones and missiles. The systems, located hundreds of kilometers behind the Russian defense lines, were first deceived by drones, and the explosive attack was carried out by Storm Shadow missiles. The destruction of the defense system and the large radars around it made all Russian bases in Crimea vulnerable. In the process, Ukrainian forces destroyed 2 Siemens 400 systems and their radars in 40 days, destroying the Russian perception of an invincible air defense system. The destruction of Russian defense systems creates huge and irreversible problems not only for Crimea but also for the Black Sea Fleet. Ukrainian forces, using unmanned naval vessels, have begun to destroy one Russian warship and patrol boat after another in the southwestern Black Sea. The Russian fleet is completely disabled as a result of the attacks both in Crimea and in the Black Sea. The first light of the morning, Ukrainian intelligence forces attacked Russia's patrol boats in the Black Sea with unmanned naval vehicles. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed that 5 unmanned naval vehicles that attacked Russian corvettes were destroyed. In a published video, it appears that the unmanned naval vehicle was shot down. However, the image taken by unmanned aerial vehicles revealed a lie of the Russian Defense Ministry. As a result of damage to the optical system of the unmanned naval vehicle, the image is interrupted. However, the unmanned naval vehicle continues to maneuver and successfully attacks the Russian patrol boat. In the published image, it is seen that the Russian vessel Bykov was heavily damaged. The Russian Defense Ministry still shows that the corvettes were not damaged, but in the images released by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry of the moment of the attack, it is seen that 2 Russian corvettes were damaged and tried to escape from the area. Playing their last trump card, the Russians have begun shifting troops to many lines and forming new brigades.